Visit to Boston. The apartment was near the elevated train line in a low class neighborhood of Boston, but it was the best Satswarup could afford. Just before Srila Prabhupada had left for India, he had sent Satswarup here to Boston, affectionately rubbing his hand up and down Satswarup's back as a blessing. At first, Satswarup had been alone, working full time at the welfare department, hoping to find a storefront suitable for a center. Then Hansadutta and his wife Himavati joined him and as had Jadurani, who had been having difficulty during her artwork in the New York temple. Hamsadutta cooked, Himavati helped him and did the house cleaning. Jadurani painted, and Satswarup went to his job. On Sundays, they would chant on the Boston Common. In September, Prabhupada wrote from Vrindavan expressing pleasure that even in his absence, his disciples had opened a Krishna conscious center in Boston. Physically, I may be present or not, he wrote, but the work must continue. Kindly make the Boston center very nice. He closed. The prospect there is very good due to the large number of students. The Boston devotees considered Prabhupada's letter very important, and as they studied and quoted the letter, it strengthened their convictions. While cooking, Hansadutta would think about what Prabhupada said in his letter. Satswarup would meditate on the letter while writing, the work on the train and chanting on his beats, and the woman who sometimes quarreled, usually about why Jadurani didn't keep her room clean, would improve of the quality of their conversation by referring to Prabhupada's recent letter. After a couple of months in Boston, Satsuru found a tiny storefront for rent. Even before he was able to get a key and see inside, he wrote Prabhupada about the little storefront situated among the student apartment buildings near Boston University. When Satsuru had gained entrance into the storefront for the first time, he came alone and had checked out the bare front room, the basement, and the oil burner. Just as he was about to leave, however, he spotted a blue aerogram on the floor. Although it had only a few feet from the door, he didn't notice it on entering. Picking the aerogram, he saw it was from Swamiji. Swamiji in Calcutta. It was as if Swamiji was there to greet him, a miracle. As Satsuru tore open the blue aerogram, he considered how it had traveled from hand to hand, originating with Swamiji in his room in Calcutta and had flown to America, mixed in with thousands of other letters in a large mall bag, and it had been separated and brought here to a building where no one lived. Yet the mailman had put it through the chute, and it had glided a few feet and landed on the floor where it had sat for days. This was, of course, no more than the miracle of the postal service, but what the postman could not have possibly appreciated was so much that it was being carried in the lightweight aerogram sitting on the window sill. Satsuru read Swamiji's word. I can understand that you have secured a very nice place in Boston, and there is a very good possibility of pushing our movement amongst the student community there. Our movement is certainly very much appealing to the younger section of our country, and if we are successful in the matter of attracting the students community in your country, certainly this movement will scatter all over the world. And the foretelling of Lord Chaitanya that in every village and every town of the world the Lord will be famous for his glorious Sankirtan movement. Please try this with your heart and soul, and your life will be a successful mission. Satswarup took the letter as a confirmation that they should take this building. But as there was a little space and no hot water, Himavati was pregnant. Hansadutta decided to move with his wife to the Montreal temple. At the same time, however, another disciple, Pradyumna, moved to Boston, so Satsuru, Jadurani, and Pradyumna moved into the little storefront. Prabhupada was wrote Satsuru from India asking him to try and get an appointment as a lecturer at the university in Boston. Such an appointment, Prabhupada reasoned, would enable him to attain permanent residency in the US. Satsuru first went to Harvard, where administrators and faculty members simply sent him office to office. Although some of them seemed curious to hear about the lecture Swami, learned Swami, his books and his mission, none seriously considered endorsing the Swami as a member of the Harvard faculty. Satsuru continued, however, walking office to office, wrapped in thought of Swami praying to be a better, more skilled disciple. Keenly, he felt the lack of appreciation of these educators for that person who was actually the most valuable teacher of all. A famous Sanskrit professor in his cubby hole within the Widener library gave half an hour to hearing from Satsuru about the Swami and talking to him about the Vedas, but the professor was unable to sign a letter requesting that the Swami come to America. After several days at Harvard, Satsuru managed to reserve a hall in the fraternity house for a single evening in November. The most difficult part was to persuade the house clerk to type a letter on the fraternity's letterhead acknowledging that Swami Bhaktivedanta would lecture at the hall for one night in November. Although it was only a tiny victory, Satsarup was pleased nevertheless. He sent the Harvard letter to Swamiji, who gratefully acknowledged it, but added that an appointment as a lecturer would have been better. November came when Swamiji was still in India. So Satsarup, Paradyumna and Jadurani attended the engagement themselves, handling live debates with the students. The Harvard Crimson printed a picture of the devotees describing them as prophets. Prabhupada said he liked that in his absence, his disciples were acting as the prophets of Krishna consciousness. One night, about 2 weeks before Prabhupada left India for San Francisco, Satsarup dreamed that Swamiji had already come to Boston. When he wrote Prabhupada about this, Prabhupada replied, "You have described in your letter that my presence again before you will be wonderful. I quite agree that it will be wonderful to be with you. Your sincere prayer to Lord Narasimha is helping me